Hi everyone, welcome back to AM and the PM. This is Melina.
This is Ariel.
We're super excited because today we're starting a series of just like different things that we watch and talk about, which is basically like 99% of Ariel and I's conversations in general. So we've just
Yeah.
decided we're gonna let you guys in on our private conversations, I guess. And if you have any thoughts that you want to add to them, please let us know. So today we're going to be talking about a new movie on Netflix called Look Both Ways. It stars Lily Reinhart and Danny Ramirez, as well
hmm
as a couple of other people, but those are, well, what is do you know the name of the actor who plays Jake? I actually don't know.
I actually don't. He's not really from, I know you would think I would know that random fact,
I would think that.
but I don't. He reminds me of this like British comedian, but I don't think that's who he is.
I feel like I know exactly who you're talking about, and I don't know
Right?
his name either.
I mean, I could do
But
a quick Google, but like I don't know his name.
it's it's okay. I feel like in the scheme, well, we'll get into why I feel like he's
Mm,
a more minor character in comparison to Danny's character. But
hmm
so we're gonna start this debrief, I guess, with a spoiler-free section. We want to do that for all of our things, just in case you're wondering, should I watch it, or you maybe started it and haven't finished it. We want to be respectful of the fact that not everybody has watched yet.
Right, right.
So the premise of the movie is that there are two different timelines. At the start of both, Lily Reinhart's character, Natalie, sleeps with Gabe, who is Danny Ramirez's character. They're just friends. It's just like a fun, like, we just finished college. Let's
Yeah, we just
just
want
do
to
this.
hook up one last time.
Yeah, it doesn't
Or
mean
not one last time. It was, I think, their
once.
first time.
Yeah,
Once. Yeah.
yeah. It doesn't mean anything to either of them, but in one timeline, well, in both timelines, she takes a pregnancy test. In one timeline, she's pregnant. In the other timeline, she's not. So we see
hmm
her life go down these two different paths, what it would have looked like with this one major life event and what it would have looked like without it. Um, so I guess just like what were your overall thoughts, like spoiler free thoughts on the movie, slash what would you rate it?
Okay. So where do I start? My
I know.
overall thoughts are like, I really did enjoy the movie. I really liked it. I was worried. I didn't know if it was going to be like corny or like, because, the only thing we've seen Lily do really is Riverdale. And I mean, granted, that's all based on like producers, writers,
Right.
directors. So this is obviously a whole different thing. But I think Lily Reinhart's a great actress. So I didn't think she was going to do terrible in it, and she did a really great job. I really liked her performance in it. I always like actors that like are good at crying. She just has that. Like actors I think about are like Hilary Duff and Lindsay Lohan, and everything that they do, they cry. So I'm like, it's because they're good criers every single time. But anyway, that's a whole nother thing. But I really did like the movie. I liked how it kind of like touched on like the power of like choice, in my
Mhm.
opinion. Like, and we were talking about this like, when we were rewatching it together, where I was just kind of like, our decisions like really do impact everything. Like our days can look so much different just based on like a small choice that we make. Like this morning, I wanted to go for a run, and that didn't end up happening because if you're a woman, some things happen during the month. That happened, and my uterus was like, no,
Mhm.
you're not going to go. So I laid in bed for an extra hour and a half instead of going for my run. And my day could have looked completely different had I gotten up and gone for my run. And like my day probably would have started off a little earlier.
Yeah.
I probably would have gotten a workout in. I would have like got my morning would have looked completely different than this one had I made a different choice. So like that's how I like that movie, how it kind of showed like our choices affect like the trajectory of like our lives. Obviously, this is like over a span of years that they show, but like even in like our everyday, like our decisions affect our day, like what our day is going to look like. So I think that's really cool. And just the idea of like alternate universes, it's just like, what would me who went on a run, what would she be doing right now?
Right.
So
Can you think of any like decision in your life that you thought was a minor decision at the time but actually turned out to like be a really big deal or impact your life in kind of a major way?
To be honest, I would probably say like making the decision to date the people that I dated,
Mhm.
like because they started off very minor, like very much like, oh, this guy likes me. We're just talking online. I could have made the choice to not talk to them. I could have unmatched them and then I didn't. I did the opposite. I decided that, oh, sure. What could go wrong? What could happen? And then life occurred. So I those are probably instances where I'm like, yeah, I started off like very minor. It wasn't like a big deal to me at the
Mhm.
time. You're just talking to that person. Nothing really is coming from it. And then you decide like, sure, why not? I'll give it a chance.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. I think about that often, about how like a little crush could turn like disastrous, if unchecked. Like you start out and you're like, oh, this person's so cute, and you have no idea that like down the road, like this person may ruin my life. Like if
Yep.
I
Hmm.
give them too much power. Um, so that is a really interesting thought. In like a more, I guess, kind of morbid way, I had this experience that I think about sometimes when I was in my master's program. Um, there was a day where I came in. I interned at a college counseling center, and there was a day that I came in for a half day. I think I just came in to do extra hours or something because I was, COVID like messed everything kind of up.
Hmm.
So I had to
Hmm.
do some extra hours and make them up. And one of my peers was like, "Can do you mind staying a couple of extra minutes? Do you have some time to stay like an extra 15 minutes so I can talk to you about a student you just referred to me?" And I was like, "I
Hmm.
don't have anything else going on for the rest of the day. I don't mind staying." So I stayed. I talked to her. I left. There was a ton of traffic coming out of the school, which I was like, this is weird. There's not usually
Hmm.
traffic like going out this way. This isn't like a super busy road. Come to find out, there was a fatal accident on that road 15 minutes before I had left the school. And when I drove by it, it was horrifying. It was like there was like a car upside down, like a car smashed into a pole. Like there were cars.
Wasn't it like it was like 8 cars or something got like involved in it or something? I remember you telling me about this when it happened.
Maybe. It was like a couple different cars, and they were like on different sides of the intersection too. So I'm like, they must have hit each other hard for one
Hmm.
car to flip, one car to be smashed, and somebody died.
Yeah.
And so I think about that sometimes, that like if I had left on time, I could have been involved in that accident. Or
Hmm.
sometimes I see accidents on the road that I'm like, I left early or I left late, and if I
Yeah.
made a different decision, if I'd spilled coffee on myself or if I hadn't,
Hmm.
like, you know, so it's really interesting how sometimes like something that, and one thing I think is cool about this movie, it's like there are a series of like inconveniences that actually turn out to be really great things.
Yeah.
Um, so I personally would give this movie a 5 out of 5 because I
I
thought
agree.
it was really great. It was really well directed. Um,
Yep.
and we'll talk about a little more in the spoiler inclusive part.
Yeah.
I really like that there were points of like there were a lot of points of parallel, but there were points of parallel where like almost the same thing was happening in both universes,
Yeah.
which I thought was cool. Because I do think that there are certain things that are meant to happen and maybe certain people that are meant to be in your lives, but other
Hmm.
things that can kind of like diverge.
Yeah.
So I really liked the concept of the
Hmm.
it kind of felt like no matter what happens, like you're gonna be okay. And
Yep.
I liked that.
Yeah. Hmm. I wrote in like my note, like even though like even in both universes, like she struggles in different ways, but like at the end she like really perseveres.
Yeah, yeah.
So I really like that. And also just like another slight comment is just about the film in general, is that I noticed that how they filmed it was really cool, and that like there were some like moments when people were having like conversations. When I was watching it, when we were rewatching yesterday, I was like, it made me feel like I was like in the moment with them. Like I was part of like the conversation based on like how the camera was. I don't know, just a little film nerd thing. But I was like, that was really cool. That was like a cool scene. I remember it was like her talking to Jake. Yes. Sorry. Jake, and like they were like talking, and like how they had the camera was like they were like really close up. So you felt like you were literally like
Oh, it was,
in the conversation with them. It was really
well,
cool.
I think that when cameras, I remember I took an analyzing film class and they talked about that, about how like the distance of the camera to the person sometimes shows like how vulnerable or open that person is being. So maybe it showed like the kind of closeness of their
Mm-hmm.
relationship too. I hadn't
Yeah.
noticed that. But one thing I did notice along those same lines is like a lot of the conversation felt very natural. I think sometimes, oh, one other thing I wanted to say too that is involved in that. I liked that this movie was about like college aged, post
Yeah.
college, because I feel like you don't
Mm-hmm.
get a lot of that. I don't think I
Yeah.
would have liked it as much if it was like high schoolers.
No.
I feel like there was more of like I am able to like as an emerging adult like make my own
Mm-hmm.
decisions about the future, and I thought that was great. It was more, even though
Yeah.
I don't have a baby, like it was relatable
Right.
to me.
But yeah, no, I was gonna say it's very relatable. And I think anyone can relate to that post-college, like, what is my life gonna be like?
Yeah,
I mean, we'll probably talk about it in more detail, but her character is very much like about her 5-year plan, you
yeah,
know? So it's like, that pressure of being like, what is the future for me right now? Like,
right,
what do I have to do to get to this place in my plan that I'm like dreaming about?
yeah,
And that is very relatable. I think anyone can relate to that.
right. And like I was saying before too, even the way that they were talking didn't feel like a 50-year-old man writing their dialogue, the
Yeah,
way that like
yeah.
Dawson's Creek feels to me when I watch it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I don't even know this word and I'm 24. What
Yeah.
does that mean? You know?
It just felt normal. Like it just felt like
Yeah,
someone knew exactly what they were talking about.
exactly. Okay, any more thoughts in the spoiler-free section before we move into our. Okay, so if you don't
No,
want to
I'm
know what
ready.
happens in the movie, it's your time to leave. You've been
Yeah.
warned. If anything gets
You
spoiled
can
for
you
you
can
from here on
come
out,
back and listen once you've watched, but
if it
from
spoils
here
stuff
on
for
out,
you, you can't blame
no
us. You can't hold us
apologies.
legally accountable.
No.
So, all
Mm-mm.
right, let's do this. So the way we're gonna
Mm.
do this is we broke down the two universes. I had originally in my head named them Babyverse and Non-Babyverse, and Ariel switched it to the Non-Babyverse to Girl Boss Verse, which
Yes.
I kind of like. So we're gonna run with that, and we're gonna start with that one. So we're
Yeah.
gonna talk about that. We can kind of talk a little bit about how it intersects with the other one, and then we will switch to the Babyverse. So welcome to the Girl Boss Verse. Um, so like I said, they both start with the spicy little scene between Jake and
Hmm.
Natalie. Yesterday when we were watching, Ariel was like, "I could never be friends with somebody this hot." And
No, she was, the fact that she was like, we're not attracted to each other. I was like, you're lying.
right.
I was like, you're out. Unless you are literally blind, you're lying.
You know that meme
Just,
of the woman being like, Beyonce? Beyonce? That's how I feel.
yeah.
Like in but like Danny Rivera.
I'm like, what? Yeah, no, if I was friends with someone that looked like Danny Ramirez, there's absolutely no way that I wouldn't have a crush on him. What?
Right.
I would be pining for this man
No,
our entire friendship.
he's so cute. And he's a really good actor too, like in his
Yeah.
face. He's a great face
Mm-hmm.
actor. He has these like soft little like Bambi eyes. And I was like, oh
Mm-hmm.
God, I'm in love with him. Me,
He-
I am in love with him.
Multiple times during our rewatch, we were like, wow, I'm in love. That's crazy.
Yeah. So they
Yeah.
they hook up and it's like, okay, great, bye. And then she's in the bathroom with Kara, her best friend,
Hmm.
who is so cute. I love like
Love.
her looks throughout this
Hmm.
entire movie.
They
She's
were
great.
killing.
Yeah. And a great friend too.
Yes.
Like the representation of friendship in this movie was really, really beautiful. Like in
I
both
agree.
scenarios, like she showed up with like crackers and also like three different brands of pregnancy
Yep.
tests. And
That's real.
I was like, this is a good friend. And even her yelling at the person knocking on the door, I was like,
Yep.
this is the kind of person that you need in a scary moment like this. You don't need a person
Hmm.
who's going to be like, how could you do something so dumb?
Yeah, no, you need
Yeah,
someone like stable who's like, no, no, it's fine. We're gonna work it out. Whatever the result, we'll
right,
work it out. It's fine.
right. So in this universe, she takes the test and she is not pregnant
Yep.
and she's excited. So yeah, so no baby to worry about. And then, well, do you have anything to say about any of that?
No, I mean, I really liked their friendship.
Yeah.
And I mean, we see even in both universes, like their friendship is like pretty solid. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, no, and like, oh no, this is the universe where like, they talk about their plan to like, go to LA and stuff. So like, cause that's what they kind of talk. I think they talked about it like while she's in the bathroom or something. Like, it's fine. She's like, we're gonna go to LA,
Yeah.
like everything's gonna be fine and chill. Um, so like it's already like established for us like that, they're really close friends and that, they're gonna go like live their lives together. They already have their plan of like what they're gonna do post college. So
Right.
I think that's cute.
Yeah, I agree. And then they leave for LA, and they say bye to Gabe on the way out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cute. And this is like one of the moments of parallel where she's like getting into the car with Kara going to LA,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll talk about the other car scene when we get to the baby bird.
Yeah.
Then they're super excited. And them like showing up to LA kind of reminds me of me going to school in Florida. And Natalie talks about this, I think later in this same universe, about how she grew up in one place and she needed to like go out and see the world. Um, and so
Mm,
I thought it was just like their excitement, the palm trees, like just being able to like be on their own. And even though it's like there are
yeah.
witches and they're trying to find jobs, like there's like a beauty in
Mm-hmm.
that, in trying
Yeah.
to be independent and kind of like make your life on your own. Um,
Yeah.
and it's funny because even though she ends up, well, I guess she does end up like back in LA, but she does end up like back home. Spoiler, I guess,
Yeah.
at
Mm-hmm.
some point.
I mean, this is the spoil inclusive
Right.
one. So it's
So
like you should have already seen it. Again, if you have not left to go watch, we
right.
don't apologize.
Exactly. So I thought that was interesting because like I said, it just reminded me of like me in my own life. Like I grew up in
Mm,
Massachusetts and I was like, I do need to leave and see something else. And I really liked it. Um, but at the same time, at the end of it, I was like, I do miss home, and
mm,
for this period of time has been great. Who knows if this is where I'll be forever.
right.
At some point, I start feeling a little antsy again. But
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's part of life.
yeah.
Like I lived in Massachusetts my whole life and now I don't. Like I never thought I was gonna leave Massachusetts, even though there are parts like you said where I got antsy. Like I'd be like, I really want to go somewhere else. I really want to live in North Carolina. But like it didn't happen until I was like 26, 27. I've lived here 4 years now. No, 25. Wow, that's not right math. It's fine. But but like even this universe like reminded me like Natalie's character very much gave me the vibe of like feeling like you need to have your future figured out,
Mhm.
like knowing exactly what each year is going to be like. And I think that's why she kind of struggled a lot, like even in both universes, but like in this one where she just like felt this pressure that she like had to get this job and she had to do this and like the quote where like if you fail to plan you plan to fail, whatever that quote is. Yeah, and so it's just like that was like her whole thing where it's like, and I think too we can relate to that where it's like if I don't fulfill what I plan to do then it's like I failed, like
Mhm.
I am a failure. I'm not going to be able to do anything. I'm incapable. If it doesn't go the way that I want it to go, then obviously it's not meant to be for me. When it's
Yeah.
like, that's literally not how it works. Like,
Yeah.
especially if, like, as we're Christians. So it's like we talked about how we had our plan set up and how we wanted it to look. And God was like, actually, we're going to go up this mountain and down this valley and then around this bend and then down this river and then up back this hill. And then you're going to get to where I want you to be.
No, seriously. It's like you think that my professor said in class the other day, life is what happens when we're busy making plans or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the exact wording, but essentially, like, it never turns out the way that you thought it would. And I've been thinking about that a lot in my life, like starting this PhD program. There are a lot of like things that seemed random to me at the time that like set me up for success in my program now, and I didn't even think about going like moving down the
Mm-hmm.
line. Like in middle school, because I was undocumented until I was like 14, I didn't think I even could go to college, so I wasn't thinking
Yeah.
about that. um but like there were just a couple, like there were different people in my life who would encourage me or like put me in advanced classes or like pull me out of class to bring me to the STEM
Mm-hmm.
fair and things like that. And I was even thinking about like my AP classes senior year. It was AP Psych, AP Lit, AP Bio, AP Stats, all of which I'm using right now in my PhD
Wow.
program in different ways. And, you know, going to college in Florida just because I want to go to college in Florida and I have to do a thesis.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I love research and I learned how to do R Studio and I'm using all of that right now. Like, it's just
Yeah.
so, it's God is so like intentional, but
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't anything that I like. I was like, I'm planning to do all of this
Right.
because this is all going to lead, you know, to this in the future because we have such finite like ideas and
Yeah.
understandings of what the world holds. I was just saying to someone yesterday who's been applying to jobs, I was like, you don't even know where you're going to end up down the line because there are like so many jobs that are being created every day. Like the
Mm-hmm.
dream job for you might be something that doesn't even exist. It might be something you create, or it might be something we can't possibly conceptualize right now. Like
Yeah.
with the rise of like virtual reality and just all these
Mm-hmm.
different things. Um, so all that being said, like it's obviously important to have a plan. We're not saying throw your plan
Yeah,
completely out the window.
don't just be like, I'm just gonna, the world is gonna tell me today what I'm doing.
Yeah,
No,
no.
you still have a choice
Right. Get
for
up, go to
sure.
work,
Yeah.
exercise when possible. Don't spend all your money. Like have some kind of a budget,
Right.
you know.
Self-control. Yeah.
Right. Important things. But at the same time, like in both universes, I feel like there were unplanned surprises that ended
Hmm.
up being like beautiful, you know.
Yeah. Hmm.
So yeah. So now we're in LA. Kara
Hmm.
has like her what she thinks is her dream job, you know, and
Yeah.
so Nat is encouraging her and telling her like, "Oh, you're gonna do great," and Kara is encouraging back. Very cute friendship.
Hmm.
She's like, "Oh, you're gonna find a job," which once again relatable. Like
Yeah.
trying to
Hmm.
find
It's
a
like, oh
job.
yeah, after college, yeah, you'll find a job. It's fine. They be lying to us, y'all.
It takes an average apparently of like 6 months to find
Yeah,
a job
they be lying.
after graduating, which is kind of insane. And so she's like, "Oh yeah, my idol Lucy Galloway, who is an animator, right? She like runs an
Hmm.
animation
Hmm.
studio and is so cute. This entire movie, all of her
Yep.
outfits, all of her looks are just an
Yeah.
honorable mention. Every time she appears, I'm like, she's gorgeous.
Yeah.
This
Played
outfit,
by the legend Nia Long, you know?
literally so cute, amazing, 100%. Even though her character is a little mean sometimes, but in like a loving way.
But like it's in a way where she's just kind of like I respect people who can like
Yeah,
kind of like talk their ish because like they have ish to talk about, like, you know, like it's like she can kind of be a little snappy to you because this is her studio, like
yeah,
she built this thing, so it's like she's not just going to tolerate whatever, you know what I mean?
yeah,
And even when like in her criticisms of Natalie, like it's out of like constructive criticism. She's not just like, oh, you suck. Like she's just kind
right.
of like, yeah, like you're good, but you could be better. Like
Yeah. She's very the embodiment of like tough love, which I feel like is the person we all need. Sometimes
mm-hmm.
we need someone to drag us a little bit. Like, actually,
Just
no,
slightly.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
no, you shouldn't do that. This is not good, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, so she's telling Kara like, oh, she's having this party. I'm just gonna show up. And Kara's
Mm-hmm.
like, all right, God be with you. What do you think of the fact that she showed up to LA with no job? Like I noticed that yesterday. Like she just went
Mm-hmm.
on a whim, hoping that she would figure it out along
I
the way.
literally wrote down, I wrote taking risks for your dreams. That was like something that like popped because I was just like that whole universe, that's basically what she was like doing. She was
Yeah.
just taking risks like the entire time. Because I don't know if I would have moved to North Carolina without any sort of thing secured.
Mhm.
Like I came here after getting accepted to grad school because I was like, the only way I'm really gonna be able to move is if I go to grad school, not because like I'm just gonna live there to live there, you know? So because I was too scared to do that option. I honestly was like, I can't just move to a state with nothing for no reason. What if, when people ask me when I'm gonna move and I say, oh, I just want to live there, they're gonna be like, okay. Like, you know?
That's
So
interesting because I feel like that the opinions of people keep us from pursuing our dreams so much
mm,
of the time. It's like what you
yeah.
said, how am I going to explain this? When in reality, it's like you don't have to explain it.
Right.
Really nobody
I
else
mean,
business.
yeah, that's also true. What's also, well, I mean, the other thing too is that she's moving to LA. So like
Yeah.
LA is a very like creative,
Yeah.
artsy entertainment. So of course people are like, "Oh yeah, totally. You could totally move to LA. You'll find a job. It's fine." So she probably even thought that too. I'm
Yeah.
thinking like even though there wasn't like a job lined up, that she's like, "Oh, I mean, who isn't looking for like an animator, you
That's
know?"
true. That's true. People do that quite a lot. Okay, so then after this, she shows up to the party, but and she I was like, this is very relatable. She shows up, she sees a guy with a list, and she does like a oop, and she like walks away. She goes to sit at the bar, immediately psychs herself out,
Mhm.
sits down. Would you have tried to go in?
No.
Right.
I already, as soon as, oh, there's a list, oh, then this is a done deal for me. It's a wrap. I gotta go home.
Right.
I wouldn't even sat at the bar. I would have been like, okay, well, time to go home. Let me get me an Uber. Like, this
It's
is a bust. I'll just go to her office and hope for the best, you know?
right. Yeah, I would have done the same thing. But it's funny because there are people who, and there is something to like confidence and just going in.
Mm-hmm.
Which so then we get this little, I guess, meet cute of Jake
Mm-hmm.
coming in, sitting down. She tells him like, I was just gonna go in there and meet this woman, and he's like, that's kind of wild, but you should just walk
Mm-hmm.
in, like you belong in there. And it reminded me of two different things. One, I was at Six Flags with my sister, my god sister, who are both named Stephanie, and my friend
Mm-hmm.
Julia,
Mm-hmm.
and we had season passes. And the season pass includes a ticket to the park, but also like free parking. Free parking. It's like included in the
Mm-hmm.
season pass. And so I was driving, and the person who was like, you would pay for parking was on the this side, which is where my god sister was sitting, or maybe I was in the back. I don't know. All I know is my god sister was in the passenger seat, and she literally just like rolled down her window and went like this with the card out the window, and they were just like, yeah, go ahead. They didn't even scan it, and she was like, you just have to. And it for everybody listening, we did not sneak into the park. We had a season pass. We had a right to be
Mm-hmm.
there. But she was like, you just have to act like you belong here, and people will treat you that way. And I was like, wow,
Hmm.
that's like really prophetic
Right.
Saturday morning. But I thought that was so interesting. Like it was like the
Yeah.
way that she presented herself. People were like, oh yeah, yeah, like you're good, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then also that one like story about the woman that's on Netflix that like snuck into high society.
Oh yeah, yeah, Anna
York.
Delvey.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So I think there really is something to that, to just being like,
I mean, she scammed a bunch of people. We're not
oh
telling
yeah,
y'all to do that.
no,
But, you know, the point is be confident. Act like, you know, you belong somewhere. Yeah.
right. So what did you think of Jake when you first were introduced to him?
I thought he was okay. I genuinely was like, you know, like they had good chemistry, like good banter, and stuff. But I was just kind of like, he just seems like your average white guy, just to put it plainly. I was just like, okay, it's probably your average guy that you'd meet in LA, you know. Seems a little pretentious, but you know, that I really didn't have any like further emotions. I think that they were like cute for what it was, for like that universe. I think he worked for her in regards to like their personalities and stuff.
Yeah,
Um, I, you know, you could tell like they really got along, they really liked each other. Um, yeah, that's really that's really like what I mean, he encouraged her to like, you know, go for her dreams. Like he was supportive in that. Like he told her like he even kind of challenged her to like take risks. Like he was just kind of like, yeah, go show what is her name? The boss. Tell me again.
Lucy.
Hmm?
Lucy.
Lucy, yes. I don't know why my brain only remembered her last name, but she was like, go tell her, like go show her your portfolio, like
Hmm.
after her meeting and stuff. Like he would just like encourage her to do that, which I think is good, like in a partner. I think we need people, not just like partners, but you know, we need people who are like supportive of you and are willing to kind of push you to take your risk. Because as we know, Natalie was very much an anxious in her head, making rash decisions out of fear and anxiety and stuff, or like
Yeah.
making assumptions out of fear and anxiety. So having someone to being like, no, no, like you're good, like go do this thing. I think that's really good. I really like that about his character. Um, but yeah, that's really all I got for him. I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm trying to think like, is there really anything else that I was like, oh, I really liked that about him? But I will say he was really supportive of like her and like going for her dreams. Like even like after they like broke up, like him trying to get into the festival just to see her like her animation short. Like I thought that was really cute.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like in many respects, he is her. He's like
Mm,
her like perfect on paper match. And we were talking
yeah.
about this yesterday. Like, not everybody's gonna have this like whirlwind love of their
Hmm.
life story. Some people, it's like,
Yeah.
I met someone who matches me perfectly, and we build
Hmm.
a nice little life together, and I love them very much. And it like,
Yeah.
develops
And
over
it works.
time. And it works, yeah. And I feel like Jake is very much like that person
Hmm.
for her. So I same, like I didn't particularly like, I was like, wow, oh my God, I love him so much. But
Right.
he's nice. And
Like yeah, they work together. It made sense like you were saying, like it was like a slow build, like it happened like over a course of like months and years.
yeah,
Like we watched the relationship develop, which is like yeah, that makes sense. That's how most relationships are. They develop and change. And like like nothing, no relationship is ever perfect. Like you said, it's not a whirlwind thing.
yeah,
Um, Sometimes it's just like you meet a guy at a bar when you're trying to crash a work party, and it just, goes from there.
yeah. So then she goes in, Lucy's not there, Jake is in there. He's like, you should stay. And then they like eat food and they just talk.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go away from each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next day or a few days after, I don't know exactly the timeline, she gets a call from Lucy's office saying that, she wants her to come in for an interview. When she's there, she realizes that Jake works there,
Mm-hmm.
which I was just kind of like,
Like, why didn't you say anything? You should have just said something.
you could have told her. Like,
Because if you told her, then she'd have been like, put in a word for me. Because that's what I would have done. I would have been like, oh, you work there? Can
right.
you like work something out? Because you clearly think I'm cute. So
Do you
why
think he
not?
did? Like, do you think the reason she got the call was partially because he put in a good word for her?
I think he said he put her resume like at the
Um,
top of like
oh, I must
the
have missed
list.
that.
Yeah, he said like I told Hannah, I think he said I told Hannah like I put your resume at the top of like Hannah's pile or something.
Mm.
Which I'm like, how did you even know her resume was in there? Did you like search through all of them? But anyway.
I don't know. I like, part of me wants to be like, that feels unethical, but also like nepotism is like a huge role, plays a huge role
Oh yeah.
in
It's
jobs
all
everywhere.
if anyone who is like still in college is listening to this, please understand that it's not just like about they've fooled us into thinking it's about your grades and like being good at what you're good at, which is fine. You should be good at what like you're studying, but like a lot of the times it's about networking and
You know,
knowing if you have to know certain people to get the connections that you
who
want.
you're related to.
Yep, who you're related to, like, yeah, it's very much like it's all about who you know. And that's my therapist told me that. She was literally like, in this field, like, in the counseling field, she's like, it's really about like who you know. So, like,
True.
if you guys have professors that you really like, stick with them. Like, start building those relationships with them because they could really open doors for you.
Yeah.
Like,
My mom was jokingly telling me yesterday that she told my sister to apply to the schools I went to slash interned at. She was like, your sister is an alumni. You have like
mm-hmm.
alumni privileges.
No, that's
And I
true.
was like, actually, that's really legit. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's a
Like
really,
if they're like if your parents or whoever are like alums of their school, like they'll consider you more over somebody, especially if you're someone that's like a successful alum, like they'll consider you over like other people, which is really bad. But yeah, you need to make connections, basically.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
My sister was like, I'm not going to school with Melina. No. I'm like, so, anyway, so then she goes into the interview. Lucy is very like, kind of just like in her own space, and Natalie
Mm-hmm.
there.
Yeah.
And they're just talking and whatever. It's kind of like, it's a little awkward. You can feel
Mm-hmm.
how like enthusiastic she is and how much Lucy's like,
Right.
I need you to dial it down just a little.
Yep.
You're coming
Because
in a
this is
little
when
hot.
she's wearing like the headphones, right? Is that when she's wearing like headphones and then she comes in? She's like, "Hi, I'm not." And she's like, "Stop, shh, stop talking."
Yeah, yeah, and she starts ignoring her. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then she gets bonus points because this woman comes in and she starts like schmoozing this woman about how she's like, oh, you did this like one specific project and I really liked this.
Hmm.
That was one part that I was like, I don't understand this, but this must be animation specific. Um,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it was probably to show like she's not just like, she's not just like your average person who's just like, I just want to draw. Like she really is like into animation. Like
yeah,
she really knows her stuff.
yeah, yeah. So she gets like bonus points with the
Hmm.
that. And then she gets the job. Yay. So
Yay.
that's exciting. And that's like a really good feeling because the interview process can be just so demoralizing in so many ways. Like,
Yeah.
I applied to jobs in February and I'm still getting emails now in mid-September about from employers being like, we have chosen to go on with somebody else. And I'm like, I don't even remember applying to this job. Also, what makes you think I still want a job at this point?
Also, or the ones that like you apply and they just don't contact you and
Yeah,
you're just like, okay.
yeah, yeah. Or you'll interview and you're like, this isn't what I thought, so it just
Hmm.
can be really stressful. So finally getting that yes from a job or even from like a school, like I know you relate to this like with grad
Yeah.
school and
Hmm.
finally getting that yes, it feels like really validating. Would you agree?
Yeah. I agree for sure. I mean, I've told my story about how I got into grad school before. It didn't go that way, but but yeah, no, getting that like confirmed, like, oh yes, okay, now I can breathe, like because it's stressful, like
Hmm.
because you're literally trying to like sell yourself to this establishment, this
Hmm.
institution that I'm worth attending and like getting an education from you guys, which
Yeah,
is like, oh wow, how do I show that I'm different out of thousands of people who
yeah.
are trying to do the same exact thing?
And that wait can be really stressful too because you're like, okay, I'm just trying to look for direction for the rest of my life. Like I think
Mm-hmm.
the Bible says people with no vision perish or something along
Mm-hmm.
those lines. And you
Mm-hmm.
can feel that way when you're like just waiting to hear from all these options or trying to figure out like maybe I should start applying to a different field or maybe I should go back to school. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's very stressful. So finally
Yeah.
being able to be like, okay, I am here. Like when you find a big map and you're like, oh, this is where I am. Now I know where I'm
Mm-hmm.
going.
Yes.
It just gives you like direction for the next step, and that can be really encouraging. So then the next scene is like this weird, like little like play on words about like kids, which are like goat children
Mm-hmm.
that are in the office.
Yes.
It's like Jake's birthday, so he brings them
Yeah.
goats, which I know is meant to be cute, and she thinks is cute. Melina, would be this in this situation,
Yeah.
but they have like a little bonding moment.
Mm-hmm.
Shows
Yeah.
he's like, he can be like a fun guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They're trying to unserious him a little
Yeah.
bit. So,
Mm-hmm.
and there are a lot of those like play on words. Like,
Yeah. They do it a lot. Like it was, they said something about like a different universe or something, or it was like, oh, how does one choice like affect like, I don't know, two different
yes,
things in life? And I was like, haha, very funny.
yes, that's in like two scenes from now. So we can skip ahead to that because I really want to talk about that scene. So right after that, they're just like smoking on the porch. There are nobody else
Mm-hmm.
with them. It sets up like little enemies to lovers between
Yeah.
her and her roommate.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go back to Natalie at work. She
Mm-hmm.
goes in with her ideas, and Lucy's like, I didn't ask you for ideas. I wanted coffee. Get out of my office.
Yeah,
And she's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
oh my gosh. So actually, the scene I was talking about is a couple scenes from now. So never mind, pin that. So then she goes out with Jake. She encourages him to take a new job. They go out to dinner.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
They kiss, they hook up, and we find
Yeah.
out because he's in her apartment the next morning. And I think is this dinner scene the one that you're talking about? How you felt like you were in the conversation with them?
No, I think it was like a scene where they were in the office together.
Okay.
And like he was like, I think she was like sitting down, he was kind of like leaning over her while they were talking at her desk, and like it was just a very close up moment, and I was like, this feels intimate, which
Mhm.
I'm like, I think that's the point, but
Yeah. And I thought I liked that at least because for me, I feel like this is how I develop feelings for someone. It kind of like sneaks up on me, which is kind of what it
mm-hmm.
felt like. I didn't feel like he was coming on to her right in the beginning. I didn't feel like she was coming
Yeah.
on to him.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like this could turn romantic, but on some level it also felt like we're friends, like we're close,
Yeah.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think it complicates things less. I think it's good that he left the job because then there's not this weird dynamic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, but so I liked that. It almost felt like a realization of both of them, like, oh, I kind of like you. Like I've been talking to you
Mm-hmm.
all the time, and I might like you like a little more than a friend. That to me felt really relatable, you know.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
um, so yeah. So then they're like together.
Yes, they're a
Um,
thing now.
and it keeps like panning back and forth between different timelines. They're just like living their best life, like they're going
Mm-hmm.
on dates and whatever, and it's like this cute little like montage of them like just
Mm-hmm.
falling in love, which is great. um
Yeah.
and it's cool because it's like she's in a new city, she has a good job, like she's not exactly doing what she wants to do, but she has this like budding relationship and she's very hopeful, so that's
Yes.
positive. And then he's like, let's move in together, and she's like, yes, let's do it,
Mm-hmm.
which is really ironic because in the other timeline he
Right.
just told Gabe, I will not move in with you because it would complicate things, which I'm not even going to start talking about my
When
theory.
we get to the baby verse, we'll unravel that. We'll unpack that because yeah.
Yeah. So that's an interesting thing, but it is interesting too because they don't end up moving in together because of like we'll
Mm-hmm.
talk about this in a second, a job that he takes. So it's interesting because I'm like in neither universe was she like I guess supposed to move in with somebody at that
She
time.
doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah. She needed to be kind of, I mean, I know she has a roommate and in the other universe she has her parents, but she
Mm-hmm.
needed like that time with herself to figure
Yeah.
out who she was.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. Yeah.
So I was like, that's interesting. And then she shows Jake her drawings. He's very encouraging. He's like, you
Mm-hmm.
should show these to Lucy,
Yeah.
who finally is like, I'll look at your portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
Yay,
Yeah.
exciting. And then they are out later that night, and Jake's like, don't expect her to get back to you for like at least a month.
Yeah.
Also, I have to go to Nova Scotia for 6 months, 2 weeks,
Maybe a year.
maybe. You can still look for apartments. I just won't be living in it. You can look for an apartment for both of us, though, if you want.
Mm-mm.
Thoughts on this whole?
Mm-mm. No.
Just mm-mm. That's your whole
I
block.
would no, because I would be like, what do you mean I have to look for an apartment while you're in a whole nother
I
country?
have an apartment.
Right. I'm like, so I'm paying rent on an apartment by myself? No, thank you.
Hmm.
You can stay in Nova Scotia. I will stay in my apartment. When you come back, then we can move in together. In my brain, that would make the most sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I feel like, especially because it's not like she doesn't have a place.
Yeah, it's not like she was like, I already moved out of my place.
Yeah, I would take that as a sign of like, okay, maybe this isn't what's supposed to be happening right
Mm-hmm.
this moment.
Yeah.
And also, that's just like their relationship is still pretty new at this point. I feel like that's a really hard
Yeah.
thing. Like you're gonna go to Canada for 6 months to a year. And I don't remember exactly what his position was on the movie, but it was like a big,
He was like a producer or
yeah,
like a second lead or something. I don't know, second producer or something on this like documentary, and he's supposed to be like
yes.
traveling like all over the world for it. So it was like, wait, why would I be paying for an apartment for you not to be there?
Yeah. So this is like it throws a bit of a wrench
Mm-hmm.
in every facet of their plan.
Yeah.
Especially because the next scene that we see between the two of them is when she's like struggling to talk to him on FaceTime because the internet
Mm-hmm.
connection is breaking
Yeah.
up. She's trying to tell him about the apartments, like, and he's just like, I just can't hear you.
Yeah.
And how did you
Mm-hmm.
feel like watching that?
I mean, I would probably be sad. I would probably not even gonna lie. I'd probably be like, yeah, this ain't gonna work. Like, I would just be like, this is just feeling like really difficult, like for no reason. And I don't want it. Like, Not because it's like, oh, it's getting hard, but I just be like, it just doesn't like, because she's trying to talk to him about apartments. And I'm like, I would just be like, let's just give up on this apartment thing because
Mhm.
he can't give you a decision on an apartment in Canada. He just,
Right.
and even that whole process requires a lot too, because it's like, sure, she finds an apartment, then somehow she has to find your income information I'm just thinking about it like
Right.
practically, like then she has to find your income information and like all of that while you're and she can't even really get in contact with you. She can't like even talk to you. So yeah, to me, that would be really frustrating. And I would just be sad. I would just be like, I can't even talk to my boyfriend. And
Mhm.
he lives, because, I'm such a quality time person.
Yeah.
So if that was happening every time like we talked, I would just be like, yeah, there's just no point in me like trying to contact him right now unless like he has a good connection. Like you call me when you have a great connection
Yeah.
because this isn't working right now.
I think long distance has a really good it's really good at exposing like the strength of a relationship too.
Yeah.
It has a good it has a it's a good way of being able to realize like this is not gonna work, I guess, because it's like,
Mm-hmm.
is this worth the work that it's taking to uphold? Because I know for me, like long distance in one of my relationships, I was like, oh, now that I have space, I'm like, this is not
Yeah.
this is not worth the work
You
that
gotta
it's
be you gotta
taking.
be built for long distance.
Yeah.
Like there are certain people that can like really make it work, but and people have said like that have done long distance relationships, like you have to literally put in twice as much work as when you guys were like together in person.
Yeah. I was
Because like distance can distance you from the other person. Like you get caught up in your life and then you're like, oh, wait a second. I have this important relationship that I need to work on.
Yeah, no, it's very true. Like I was listening to the One Tree Hill podcast, and Sophia Bush was talking about how her and her fiance Grant, like they have plans to see each other like at least every 2 weeks. So they always have
Mm-hmm.
to have a plan of like, okay, in about 2 weeks, like I'm gonna come to you or you're gonna come to me or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
because they are in a way long distance because they're always
Yeah.
traveling. Um, and I was like, that's honestly a good plan because we see how Hollywood couples can fall apart
Yeah.
so
Mm-hmm.
quickly. And it also in a way kind of reminds me of us. I know that we're like best friends, but like
Right.
you're one of my strongest friendships, and that's partially because we both like take time to talk to each other and
Mm-hmm.
let each other know like what's going on in our lives
Yeah.
and days. So it can work, but it has to be like worth the work. So,
Yeah, a lot of my friendships are long distance because a lot of actually like my closest people, like you included, obviously, live in Massachusetts or in like other states.
mhm.
And so it's like you have to like try. You have to actually it, like regardless of if it's a romantic or friendship relationship, but I think just showing that you care enough or like you're trying to keep the relationship going is important.
Mhm. Yeah. So I think in this moment she's like we don't hear her out loud think about like is this worth it, but I feel like it's kind of implied in the
Yeah.
frustration.
I
Um
mean, she kind of starts to say it in like their second kind of FaceTime
mhm,
after Lucy basically is like,
right.
I like your drawings, but where's you?
Yeah, so that's the next scene. I wrote Lucy roasts her. She's basically like you have no passion and no vision like in your stuff,
Hmm.
which must hurt to hear.
Yeah.
But also is important because art at its core is supposed to be an expression and not something
Hmm.
you do because you're trying to get money or you're trying to impress
Right.
somebody. And when it is made that way, you can kind of like tell
Tell.
with certain shows and movies where you're like, you did this for shock value and not
Hmm.
because it like meant anything to you or it added anything to the story. Like,
Yeah.
have you ever read Divergent?
Like the first book,
No, the last one. Do you know how it ends?
she dies, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
no,
like
I didn't finish the series. Like I read the first book and I think I started the second one, but then like I think I got too caught up in whatever was going on in my life, so I didn't continue the series. But I remember seeing that she died, and I was like, "Isn't the book in first person though? So how does that
It switches to
work?"
Thor's perspective. Yeah.
Okay,
He dies like to save Caleb, whom I hate and should have died in movie one. Um,
Caleb.
her brother.
Oh, her brother. Because I was like, wasn't he the guy that was mean to her? No, that was Peter.
No.
But
And then even like the Hunger Games, like Prim dying. I was like, then what was the point? What was the point of all
right,
this? Just for her sister to die because war criminal Gail decided that she wanted to
right.
do something against Katniss's. Don't even get me started. I'm not gonna
No,
start getting into that because I'll get upset.
yeah,
Um,
no.
the only one of that trilogy that I really like the ending is The Maze Runner because I felt like the ending. I like the ending of the book better than the ending of the movie, I will say, but I like the ending in the movie. I
Mm.
felt like it made sense. It was planned. It seemed like it had been planned since the beginning. But sometimes you can tell that an author or like the writers of a show or movie, you're just like, what
What
happened
is
here?
actually going on? Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like Riverdale is like that. Like I hear plots.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, this has to be a joke. And then I look
When
at
I tell you, I stopped watching Riverdale, I think at like season 3 or something. I can't remember. Once I started talking about like demons and stuff, I was like, okay, I'm all good. But um I follow this guy on TikTok who like will just be like, I watch Riverdale so you don't have to, and he'll just
yes,
recap
yes.
what happened on the episode. And I'm like, how did we get here? Like,
They're just gonna
how,
add in shock value. That's how. That's
like,
what I'm trying to say.
yeah, like it was, I was just like, so Satan exists in this
Right.
universe now? I don't understand what's going on.
And then
Everyone has superpowers. What?
they're trying to do like a multiverse thing. Like I saw this clip on TikTok that had me cracking up. It was, you know how they replaced, oh my God, I don't remember his name, but they replaced him with Charles Melton.
Reggie's character?
Yes, they replaced
Hmm.
like original Reggie with Charles Melton. I don't remember
Yeah.
the original one. I think he was in like Casey Undercover or something like that.
He was also in 13 Reasons Why. He played Zach. That my brain was like Zach, but that was his character's name in
What's
13
that?
Reasons Why.
Which, first of all, they're like two different like nationalities of
Yeah.
Asian. I was like,
Hmm.
they're not even gonna try to make them like
Not even
similar.
gonna
You
try
were
to
just
make
like,
them
I'm just gonna have
look the
this
same.
Asian with this other Asian who don't they don't even look alike at all. But
They
whatever.
don't talk the same. They don't look the same. Completely different faces, but
No. Well, and no hate to
we're
Asian
just gonna
actors. I think they're great.
no hate. Yeah.
And I love Charles Melton. I love that man. He's so cute. But anyway, I saw this video where they had brought back the original Reggie, and they were like like him and Charles Melton were like talking to each other, and it was like Reggie A and Reggie B, and it was just like, what in the multiverse of madness is going on?
Literally what's going on. Like we went from like murder mystery thriller to
Which is
now,
great.
right, I loved the first season, which is now to what multiverse superhero. We're in the MCU in
Yeah,
Riverdale right now.
like a
Plus
little demonic.
Satan.
Like yeah, even
Like
season two wasn't bad with like the Black Hood or whatever, like that
mm-hmm,
feeling.
mm-hmm.
That one was interesting, but then once we got to like season three, and they were like, there was like the whole like,
Game, it was like Dungeons and Dragons but demonic, and I was like, what?
and there was like the Gargoyle King, and
Yeah,
I
and
was
people
like,
are sacrificing
did
themselves.
you
I
just
was like,
throw a baby
what
into a fire? That
the
feels
hell
no.
is
Right,
going
literally.
on?
So, anyways, I'm not get on a tangent about
Right,
Riverdale.
literally
We'll
went on
never
a
come
tangent
back.
about Riverdale, but
Anyway, back to back to
let's get
go
back.
both ways. I was like, what are we watching now?
I
So
mean, we're talking
now
about Lily Reinhart. It kind of fits.
she's in the multiverse, you know.
Right,
This is
yeah.
Lily Reinhardt's multiverse. So yeah, so Lucy roasts her, which she
Mhm.
really needed to hear. She really did.
Yeah.
Like it hurts, but you do need that person sometimes who's like, this is not like I can tell. I think her problem in both universes is that she has a hard time not being in control of things,
Hmm.
and she just wants things to go a certain way. Like she's
Yeah.
like, this is my dream. This specifically, this has always been my dream, and she can't possibly conceptualize like life could look a different way. And
Yeah.
Lucy tells her like, I found myself when it was just me, and I found
Hmm.
my voice. You know, what did you think about like that conversation?
I thought that was good. I think it's like important for us to be confident in who we are. Like I like me and Kayla were talking about like I like people who are confident in themselves when they like are doing like their work.
Mm-hmm.
So we were talking about the example of like the actress Florence Pugh.
Mm-hmm.
Like when she acts, like you can tell that she's like really deep in it. She's very confident in her like ability to act. Like she makes it kind of flow,
Mm-hmm.
pun not intended. But so I think her boss being like, no, you need to know who you are as an animator. What do you want to draw?
Right.
Like, because it's fine to be inspired by people. Like she was saying, like, I see all these influences of all these different animators. She's like, but like, what is Natalie saying? Like, where is Natalie in this?
Right.
Which is like, I think that's true. Like, I think like if you're gonna do something that's like that, obviously a bunch of other people have already done. Like, you should bring something that's like unique because it's you. Like,
Yeah.
it's unique to who you are. So you can be a great like speaker. There are a lot of great speakers out there, but like, what is it about you that you do and when you speak that makes an impact? Like even as writers, like we're all influenced by other people, like different things inspire us, but like when we write, where is it coming from? Are we trying to be the next J.K. Rowling? No.
Right.
Are we trying to be the next, I don't know, Suzanne Collins? No. But like if we're inspired by those people, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but like who are you as a writer? Like, what are you bringing? What's your story? Like, what's your vision? And
Yeah.
what does it look like?
As a creative, I feel like you can't define who you are by like, well, I'm trying to be like X, Y,
Mm-hmm.
or Z, like you said. And it didn't, it to Lucy, who's a professional, like it didn't feel that way. It felt like
Yeah.
you're just trying to copy me or all these other people, which, like you said, it's fine. There's nothing new under the sun. It's okay with drawing
Mm-hmm.
inspiration. But what story am I like uniquely
Mm-hmm.
trying to tell? So then she calls Jake, she's crying about it. He is like not as supportive as she would like, partially because he
Mm-hmm.
just doesn't have like the emotional bandwidth to
Yeah.
go at the time. And so she's frustrated, so they break up. And his like lackluster response, I was kind of like,
Very nonchalant. Just okay, cool, if that's how you feel. Which to me, I was like, that's a very like man response. Like I've seen men be like, okay, well, that's how you feel, that's fine. And
I've
it's like,
experienced that in real
yeah.
life.
Yeah, no,
So
I've
yeah.
also experienced it where it's like, he's like, okay, well, if that's how you feel. And I'm like, so you don't have anything like you don't want to be like, no, why do we have to break up? You're just frustrated with me. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, obviously we can talk about men and emotional intelligence for days, but it's just kind of like, that's it. Maybe sure he was burnt out from work and so he was like, whatever, man, sure. But also like, this is like your girlfriend. Like this isn't just some girl like you're just starting to date. So yeah, it was a very nonchalant, like, well, if that's how you feel, that's fine.
Right. And this is like the low point in the movie in both timelines because then we have this
Mm-hmm.
nice little parallel of her showing up at her parents' house in the
Mm-hmm.
rain, and they're like really cute. Like when she comes in, her mom's like, "Do you want brownies or cookies?" Like I have both. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh,
Yeah.
this is such a cute like
Yeah.
mom thing
Love it.
to do." And she's scrolling on her phone. She sees the South by Southwest promo, which is important
Mm-hmm.
for a
Mm-hmm.
later point in the story. She also sees that Gabe is engaged.
Mm-hmm.
At that point in the movie, I was like, "What?"
Right. I was like, so we're not gonna try to make them see each other, but I digress. I
Right, right. But it's interesting.
mean, they do see each other, but yeah.
Which he's also engaged in the other
Yeah.
universe, which I was like, "Dang, she can't catch a break."
Right.
Universe.
Dang.
So yeah, and also when she's on, I thought it was interesting. She's on Instagram and she stops. She's looking at a picture of Kara, and like once again she's not saying anything, but it just feels like maybe not necessarily jealousy, but she's like, oh, look at Kara living her dream, when we know
Mm-hmm.
Kara hates her
Her
job
job.
from the
Yeah.
other timeline.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just really interesting to me because it's like what we see isn't always the reality, especially
Yeah,
on
it's just a snapshot. Like, especially on Instagram, it's like people like to say it's like a highlight reel.
yeah.
It's like you're just showing like the good parts. No one's showing you when you get home from work and you want to break down and cry. Like,
Right.
no one's doing that.
Right. She's not going to be posting like, I hate my job, you know? So
Right.
she could. She'd probably not have that job for a
Mm,
long period of time.
yeah.
And then she goes to the baby shower. It's
Mm,
very awkward.
very awkward.
And it just kind of like, I don't know.
This is the point where she starts to like annoy me
Yeah.
in both timelines, because I'm just kind of like, you're really upset about like your life not going the way that you want. And so instead of just saying that, you're just throwing a tantrum about small things that don't really like matter.
Right. Because she cares so much about what
About
other people think. And she's
mm-hmm,
comparing herself. Like, oh, look, this woman, she's like with someone and she's pregnant and she's like living a good life, you know, like, and that
yeah.
conversation is just so awkward between her
Mm-hmm,
and the woman because she's like trying to like ask her about different things. She's like, nope, that's a bust. Nope, that's also a bust. No, that's a
yeah.
bust. And she's like, okay, and goodbye. Like, I'm not gonna let you
Right.
ruin my baby
No.
shower.
Mm-mm.
And then Kara comes and tries to talk to her, and she's like, I have to leave. Like, I have to go. And
Leaves.
she storms out. Um, thoughts on that?
I just thought it was really annoying. Like I was just kind of like, I mean, any you could have just been like honest with Kara, because if I had come to you and been like, I'm just feeling really annoyed and sad about life right now, I don't think I should go to this baby shower. I feel like you would be like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
like that's fine. Go take your time, stay at home. We can
Right.
just hang out after when I'm done. Like instead of going there, like being upset and being miserable, and then just like, you know, I understand like you're frustrated with life, but like you really don't have to be like standoffish or like, rude to people that are just kind of like trying to catch up with you,
Yeah.
Like it's just like you should have just stayed home. Just you wasted your time. You wasted your time even doing this. Like you made the choice to go. And now you're even more upset about your life when you could have just made the choice to stay home.
Yeah.
Which
Exactly.
she does in the other universe. She's like, yeah, I just decided like, it really wasn't for me. And I'm like, great.
Yeah. Good job. That was good. Seeing what we just saw in
Yeah.
the other timeline, that was probably for the best. Okay. So after that, she goes home. There's like a parallel between this this universe and the other one because she's drawing in both, which
Mm-hmm.
I like because in the other universe, once again, she has no like romantic connection because
Mm-hmm.
we'll talk about it. This whole thing has just happened with
Yeah.
and in this universe, she doesn't have Jake, who kind of in a way was like her anchor into the
Mm-hmm.
world. And I just wonder if she kind of like wrapped her life around that relationship and what that meant to her,
Yeah.
how it's always going to be. So she's drawing like a little short in this one, and in the other universe, she's drawing like I think a comic or something like that. Um, so she's doing this little short. She applies to South by Southwest and she gets in, which is exciting.
Mm-hmm. Very
And
exciting.
and in the other world, she gets invited to be there. So,
Mm-hmm.
like I like that this is a constant in
Yeah.
both timelines. And then she called Jake. He doesn't answer because he's in Canada and very busy. Leaves his little
Mm-hmm.
voicemail and is like, just so you know, my short got into South by Southwest. I just want
Yep.
that. So, yeah, so that was like a really exciting turn of events for her.
Mm-hmm.
Then we get a little parallel of her checking into South by Southwest, and at the
Yeah.
I'm slightly confused because she cuts her hair in one universe and lets her hair grow, in the other universe,
Yep.
like,
Mm-hmm.
who are you in this
Right. Yeah.
universe?
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like that was done intentionally because it's like
Mm-hmm.
at this point in her life, it's like these are the same. This is supposed to be happening, so it doesn't matter for you to
Mm-hmm.
switch. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking like when she cut her hair in like the baby verse, it was kind of like to start afresh.
Yeah.
And then like her growing it out, I don't know, for me, sake was like kind of like showing like her growth, like
Mhm.
as like not just like a mom, but also just like as an individual, as herself.
Yeah.
Um, and then, with girl boss verse, Natalie, um, I think it was kind of like, again, like a parallel. Like she cut her hair to kind of embrace this new start because she had just come from like this low place.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I will say cutting your hair can feel really good when you need like a pick me up or just doing something
mm,
to your hair or just like buying new clothes or like throwing away
mm-hmm.
clothes. Like something about that can be very cathartic. Um, so then she's there. She sees that Gabe is playing because she's there with Kara. So
Mm-hmm.
her and Kara go in to say hi to Gabe, which is cute. Because I like that they introduce like the other guy in the alternate
Yeah.
universe. You know,
Mm-hmm.
obviously we already knew Gabe, but like they reintroduce him.
Yeah.
They sit down, they have a drink. She's like, "Oh, I saw that you're engaged," and he's like, "I'm married and I'm having a kid." And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Ooh."
Sad.
It was like
Heart shatters.
a sad tear runs down my
Right.
face because I was like, okay, there's no coming back from this. There really isn't. But you know, I didn't like not like Jake at this point. I wasn't super pleased with him because
Mm-hmm.
of the breakup. But I was like, okay, I guess that is going out the window.
Right. That possibility.
Yeah. And then I really like the scene where she tells him like, I thought I was pregnant, like the night of
Mm-hmm.
the pregnancy test, and he's like,
Right. Do I have a child?
"Are you trying to tell me that already a dad?" And
Right.
no,
And
I
she's like,
wasn't.
no, no, no,
I
no.
wasn't pregnant. And then they both laugh about it, and she's like, "You're gonna be a good dad," which we know is true because of how.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I found that like really sweet and
Yeah.
ironic that it was like something that they could just kind of like laugh about and say, like,
Yeah.
what if? And we know the what if
Mm-hmm.
other
Right. Yeah.
timeline. What did you think of that like kind of closure scene between them?
I mean, I thought it was cute because I think, again, that well, I haven't said it yet, but I think they had really good chemistry with each other, like insane. But like,
Mhm.
even in that moment, I was just like, okay, kiss.
Right.
Like, but like, no, I thought it was really cute. And, we have conversations like that. Like, I don't know if you've ever had conversations like that, but I know that I've had conversations with like guys that I used to be friends with where I'd be like, yeah, I used to have a crush on you. And we were like in seventh grade. And they'd be like, what? And I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah, I was really dumb. But,
Yeah.
so I think everyone kind of has little moments like that in life where it's going to like, fun fact, I almost had your kid. But
Right.
I mean, maybe not to that extent, but, or like, I don't know, have had conversations where it's like you're talking to someone that like you're friends with and you're like, I didn't think you used to like me. Or like, I thought you were, people have told me like, I used to think you were like stuck up before I got to know you. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, people have said things like that to me too, just because I have a very serious like face
Hmm.
when I'm not smiling. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I said that to Kayla when I was there last time because she's Kayla's just a really bad texter.
Hmm.
And so I was like, yeah, when we first started being friends, I thought you didn't like me because you wouldn't answer for like long periods of time, and then you would come to Boston and you'd text me like, let's hang out, and I was like, I'm getting mixed signals. What's happening? Like,
That's funny.
and eventually I just realized like Kayla's just not good at texting back. Like
Yeah.
she'll eventually respond, but maybe
Right.
not in that
Mhm.
span of 24
Yep.
hours in which you said
Maybe. Yep.
so. And now that you live
Love
there,
you, Kayla, if you're
we
listening.
love you so much. Now that you're there, it's good because if it's ever an emergency, I'll just call you directly.
Right.
So, but yes, we love Kayla so much. This is not a Kayla hate party. This is a Kayla
Mm-mm.
love party.
No.
Anyway, um, back to the story. So yeah, so that's like a cute little moment. And then she goes outside and she runs into Jake, who's like desperately trying to buy a ticket from somebody, which admittedly is very cute
Hmm.
and very sweet. And he's like, I needed to come see you. Like they're not happy with me back at work, but I know this is like such a big deal
Hmm.
for you. So I needed to come and be here. How did you feel about it? Kind of reminded me of like not I didn't get the same feeling, but it kind of reminded me of the scene in the second To All the Boys where he's like, I know you hate driving in the snow. I
Yeah.
love that scene.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cute. I think that's just like, I thought that was a really cute moment where I was like, oh, that's so sweet. Like he still like cares enough.
Yeah,
Like he still cares about her enough to do that. So I thought it was a really cute little moment.
yeah. So then they run into Lucy. Lucy's like, I'm really proud of you. And if you're ever in LA, you should stop by the studio. And
Mm-hmm.
she's like, yes, I will. And then they go and they watch their short, and that's kind of the end of their timeline
Mm-hmm.
before I feel like we can talk about like the very last scene after
Yeah.
the second
Mm-hmm.
universe. So that's the end of their little story. And it's sweet, I watched it
Mm-hmm.
with my cousin and my mom though, and my cousin was like, I know that she had struggles in both universes, but I feel like having a child is like a much bigger struggle than losing a job. But still, it was like this idea of like life isn't always going to turn out the way
Mm-hmm.
you expect, and that's
Yeah.
okay. And sometimes you need a period of like hitting rock bottom to really find yourself, you know. So, any more thoughts on the girl boss first before we switch over to the babyverse?
No, I think it was great from start to be. Wow, I almost said start to beginning.
From the beginning to the
From beginning to
beginning.
the end.
Well, from the beginning, now we're going to the other beginning. So I actually
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're right. I thought it was a great little universe. I think it worked the way it was supposed to work out.
I have no hate toward the girl boss verse. It was very cute. And I feel like if that
Yeah.
were me in real life, like in that situation, like I would be happy to. But now we're
Mm-hmm.
gonna transition into my favorite universe, which is the babyverse. We will see you on the other side. 1, 2, 3, go. Hello, welcome
Hey guys.
to the babyverse. So we're gonna, if any of you have ever seen Vantage Point, how it like moves the story along and then it like rewinds to the beginning, and you're like, wait,
Yeah.
that's what it's like right now.
I'm going back.
So we're back at the start. The pregnancy test in the bathroom. Instead of coming up negative, it comes up positive,
Positive.
which means pregnant, obviously. And apparently, false positives are like extremely rare. Like false negatives are more common, but false positives like rarely ever happen. So interesting. And she is pregnant, as we know, because
Yeah.
we have the child.
Right.
Um, and then there's this super cute scene with her and Gabe on the bridge where she's like, I'm pregnant. And he's like,
Mm-hmm.
what? And the thing that annoys me, this is said like 2 or 3 times in this movie, is they're like, but we use condoms. Those are only 85% effective.
Guys, they're not 100%
They're
effective
not effective. They're not that effective.
at all.
They're just not. So I just want to throw that
Things
out there.
happen. Like
Yeah,
lots of different possibilities can occur.
exactly. So anyway, so he's understandably like kind of frustrated and stressed right at the beginning because I mean I understand that like finding out especially when you're graduating and he has plans to be like a musician,
Mm-hmm.
like to kind of just like live on the road and like support himself, and now he's like I'm gonna have a baby. I can't do that
Yeah.
with a child. But after like a few seconds of that, he kind of comes around and is like, I'm pro your choice, like whatever you choose,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna support you.
Yeah.
And it's this like really just like sweet scene between the two of them. I think it gives her the peace of knowing like if I do choose to keep this baby, this guy is gonna be there and he's gonna
Yeah.
be supportive. What did you think of that, of the bridge scene?
I mean, from scene one, moment one, Danny and her, I keep calling him Danny, even though his
Gabe,
character's
that
name
was
is
me
Gabe.
yesterday.
But as soon as they were making little eye contact banter, I was like, yeah, I'm locked in. I'm in this. So anything that Gabe did in this entire movie, I was like, period.
Mhm.
So that scene, 1,000 points to Danny, to Gryffindor, to
It
the best. Yes.
was very cute. It was super. I feel like he
It was
might.
a very like mature response for someone who's 22
Yeah.
in college because 22-year-old men, absolutely not. The average 22-year-old man probably wouldn't react
No, it
that
was
way.
giving, like we said this the whole movie, it was giving man
Men
written
written by
by
women.
women.
Yeah,
Which let's
absolutely.
I choose to believe that real men written by women are out there. I've seen that on TikTok sometimes where like guys will post certain videos talking about certain things and people in the comments will be like, are you a man written by a woman? And that's always so funny to me. Like IRL, you're a man written by a woman.
Yeah,
But
that's, low key what we be wanting. So,
just watch our corny little movies if you want to put this more interested.
so
But it's like I
yeah.
feel like that's very baseline for what you would want. I mean, I know he's not her partner, but in a way he's gonna become like a partner to her. But that's
Mm-hmm.
that's like a very baseline thing of what you want from someone is for them to support you through the highs and also through the lows, which I
Mm-hmm.
feel like Kara does for her in her life, her parents do
Yep.
for her, and Gabe also does.
Yeah.
She doesn't always do it for them in response,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's true.
but they do it for her. So
Mm-hmm.
so that's a cute scene. She goes to tell Kara, I'm gonna have this baby. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
this happened for a reason. Like this is
Yeah.
supposed to happen, and I'm gonna make this decision, and I'm not gonna go to LA. And Kara's like,
Yeah.
"No, I'm not gonna go to LA." And this is when I feel like the guy makes a good friendship decision, and she's like,
Yeah.
"Absolutely not! Like your dream
Yeah.
job is out there. You're
Yeah.
gonna go to LA, and you'll figure it out. Like you'll find like a community, you'll find people.
Mm-hmm.
Just because my trajectory has changed doesn't mean you shouldn't chase your
For
dream."
sure.
And then
Yeah.
I didn't notice this last time, but like her 5-year plan rips, and then it says like
Mm-hmm. Motherhood. Yeah. Cause like interjects her plan.
that'll change things.
Absolutely.
I've heard speculatively
Mm-hmm.
that baby will change your life. And then they go, so this the parallel car scene, they're getting in the car to go tell her parents. And
Mm-hmm.
I actually really kind of like this scene. I think it's so funny that she's like, let me just break it to them. Like, give me some time so I can break it to them. And she gets out of the car and she's like, I'm pregnant. Because
And they're like,
that would be me. Like the guilt and
absolutely.
the
There's
feeling
no
are just
way. There's no way that I would just walk up and be like, hey,
right,
let's just dive into I'd literally be like, yeah, by the way, this is happening.
right. And they're understandably not super happy
Yeah.
with this. They're like,
Yeah, it's a very funny scene to
it
me.
is,
It's
it's,
just because
it's
I was telling Melina, like, I was like, I would probably react, I'd probably react that way as a mom, but not because it wasn't, I feel like to me, it wasn't in a way where they were basically like, you ruined everything, you suck kind of
mhm.
thing. It was just kind of like, wait, but we had our plan. Like,
Yeah,
I can imagine like me with like my husband, like, we have this whole plan of what empty nesting looks like, what we're going to do, all the trips we're going to take, all this stuff. And then like your kid's like, hey, so sorry to interrupt, but,
right.
and
I'm
they're
bringing a
like,
baby into this house and
yeah,
myself.
after they haven't had a baby in 22 years. So
Right.
I can understand the kind of freak out of like, but what, she was like, what about naked Sundays? Like, what
Yeah.
about all the things we were going to do? And he's just like, yeah, it's like, Luke Wilson's a great dad character. Loved that.
He's so cute
Um,
in this movie. I like I was saying to you yesterday, I love like soft dads. Like
mm-hmm.
her mom's freaking out and he's like, we're gonna go outside. We're just gonna go outside. And he like pulls her and she's like yelling.
Yeah.
She's like yelling at them. He's like, I'm your dad.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was cute. And then Gabe tries to like propose,
Ay.
which I really hate that trope. I don't understand why people do that in real life. I don't understand what difference it makes.
Because if you don't, you were never intending on marrying the person, you don't have to, just because out of principle, like,
No one cares.
you didn't want to marry them, you just wanted to sleep with them. What
Right.
ended up happening, obviously you didn't expect, but doesn't mean you have to marry them now. I don't believe that at all. I'm like,
Yeah.
if you never had the intention of marrying this person, don't. Just don't.
Yeah. Because then it's like we're together for the child and not necessarily because we love each
Mm-hmm.
other. And I feel like that's not great. Like obviously
Yeah.
co-parenting, but you don't have to force a relationship to look a way that it doesn't have. And it's not like it's the 1600s. You're not gonna be killed like for having a child.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Melina, I don't care. Like I'm not gonna
Yeah.
gasp the audacity of you guys.
Right.
So anyway,
Yeah.
so yeah, so she wakes up the next morning. She's in her room. Her parents are like exercising in her room, and her mom's like, "You're gonna go get a job. You need
Mm-hmm.
the job.
Yeah.
Congratulations, you're an adult now." And her dad's like, "You have an appointment tomorrow with the
OB.
OGBT." Love that line so much. It's so
He's like, yeah, you know, the doctor, yeah. And I'm like, just just lift your weights, sir. Just do your workout, please.
I understand what you were trying to say. Please go somewhere else. He's very like well intentioned and dumb
Mm-hmm.
at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I feel like we're quickly realizing, like, and she is realizing things are going to be really, really serious.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see Gabe and Nat like at the OBGYN.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's when they like feel the heartbeat of the
Mm-hmm. And they find out if it's a boy or girl.
yeah. And it's just like it's cute. Like you just get the sense that like they're both really scared, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but like they're gonna be in it together and he's being very cute and very supportive. And
I
I said
love
this to
him.
you yesterday, it really reminds me of Jane and Raphael. Jane
Mm-hmm.
the Virgin.
Yeah.
Like both just like, okay, I'm gonna get it together and
Yeah.
support you. Because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah. And then we get a scene where she's on the phone with Kara and she's like, yep,
Not having a good time.
I'm not having a good time. I'm really not. And she cries
Mm-mm.
on the couch, which I feel like is really reasonable. Like as much as she might be like looking forward to, and her mom talks about this later, and we can talk about that when we get
Mm-hmm.
there too. But like as much as I might love my child, be looking forward to it, there's still a part of like my life that's now being lost. My
Yeah.
plan that's now being diverted. Um so I like, and I like you said, I think Lily Reinhardt's like a really good crier. Like it feels
She's
really
a really good
authentic.
crier.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, any thoughts on any of that up till now before we go to the birth of the child?
I mean, I told you last night where I was just like, yeah, I do not want morning sickness. I want no parts of nausea when it comes time for me to have children. I've already prayed the prayer. I've already given the sacrifice at the altar. Please, Lord God, do just remove that from the list.
Yeah.
Okay? Because I can't do it. Like
Yeah.
she literally can't eat anything. She's just like, yeah, I had 3 crackers and threw up the whole day. No. No.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
We were talking about this yesterday too, like how just seeing pregnancy and birth, just, I'm kind of like, do I want to do that? Like, that's
Right.
really horrible. But then later in the movie, I saw Danny Ramirez holding the baby, and I was like, I changed my mind.
Just kidding.
My mind has changed. But it does, like, it seems very horrible and bananas.
Yeah, it's
Like,
a really hard, and I think I wrote in my notes like moms are literally phenomenal
mhm,
because I'm like, because she's 22 and I'm like, I'm 29. And I'm like, when it comes, I'm like, a child?
right,
Me? No. Like people ask me, like, oh, do you have kids? And I'm like, what?
right,
Like, what are you talking about?
right,
Like, but then it like obviously I guess by this age people still kind of expect like, oh, you might have kids by this time. And I'm like, nope, absolutely not. But I'm like, even at 29, if I was in her shoes, I'd still be scared. So I could totally
very
relate to
same.
her
Yeah,
being like, yeah, I'm not having a good time right now. It's a little scary. I don't know what to do. And I'm
right.
sick all the time. So,
Yeah. So then we get a scene where she's having contractions and she's with Gabe and he rushes her to the hospital and he's just
mm,
like, I don't know, just being very, once again, cute and sweet. And she's like, we must stop at Whataburger on the way. And they do.
yeah.
She comes in
Mm-hmm.
Whataburger because she's like, they will not let me eat when I'm there.
Yeah.
Not gonna push this baby out on
Empty stomach. No,
an empty
ma'am.
stomach. And I almost wish they had given us a scene of them in the drive-through with her having contractions, the person on the other line being like, hello?
Yeah,
Like,
that would have been so funny.
is everything okay in there? And him being like, everything's good. I'm gonna go deliver this.
Right, it's fine.
Fine, it's very fine. And then the baby's born, and it's Rosie, a little girl, and there's just
So
like
cute.
a cute moment between them when they're like, "Oh, like this is our baby
Hmm.
girl, like our collective baby."
Yeah.
Um, and so that is sweet. And that is quickly contrasted with sounds of the baby shrieking at the top of her lungs in the middle of the night. They're struggling with her. They're struggling to learn how to change her. They call her a night owl because she's like awake at night and misses during
Hmm.
the day, which is clearly very unpleasant for
Yeah.
parents. Um, but then they're like just being really cute with the baby. Like,
Yeah.
this is the moment where I was like, no, I do want a baby because so cute. Just being very, very, very sweet. Like,
I
very
mean, too, it's also probably like trying to find joy in the midst of like a really struggling time.
Mm,
Sometimes I think you just kind of have to make yourself laugh, you know?
mm-hmm.
Like that's why he was like, "Oh, you got a lot of meetings. You got to fire people tomorrow." Oh no, we don't want you to fire people. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, they're probably like sleep deprived young parents, and they're like, let's just get something out of this,
Yeah.
because you can tell like Lily is like on the couch, like I'm done. Like
Mm-hmm.
she's like, I don't want anything to do with this right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so like he kind of lightens up the mood, but
Yeah.
we like him.
Love.
We love
And
that.
this, I think I switched this scene with the other timeline by accident. This is the timeline where she sees Kara on Instagram living
Mm-hmm.
what she thinks is her best life,
Yeah.
but she's not,
Yeah.
she's comparing herself, even though she doesn't know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then she has another moment on the couch, and her mom comes up to her, and she doesn't name postpartum depression, but that's
Yeah.
what they're
Pretty
talking about.
much. Yeah.
And I liked that because I feel like you don't see a lot of that representation in.
Mm-mm. They don't talk about it enough, I don't
Mm-mm.
think. A lot of women experience it.
Yeah.
I know after my mom had Amber, she said that she experienced it. Like, it's very common. Like, also another thing people don't really talk about is postpartum anxiety as
Hmm.
well. That's like something that I learned recently. It's like a thing. Like, there's postpartum depression, but there's also postpartum anxiety. Take care of this kid, just like that fear of like, what if this happens and what if this
Yeah.
happens. So I thought that was a good scene, especially when she talks to her about like, mourning that who you were before you got pregnant. And
Yeah.
then even when she's just like, yeah, and like you don't get to not be a mom. And I'm like, whoa, like I was like, oh God. So I understood when she kind of like, she's like, don't freak out. But I was like, oh my God, like that's legit. Like as soon as that pregnancy test is a positive, it's like your whole life is just changed from there.
Yeah, it's true. But it was nice because it felt like it was a good moment of bonding between them.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think what I've heard from women who have experienced postpartum depression, and my mom also experienced that after she
Mm-hmm.
gave birth to my sister, because it's draining on your body in so
Yeah.
many ways, is that it can be like people feel guilty sometimes feeling that way
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
it's not like, oh, I hate this baby, how dare this baby
Right.
life, but it's like
Right.
this event is changing things and it's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of work, you know.
Yeah.
So I liked that. It felt like a good like real life moment, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that's part of the reason I liked this movie is that it didn't feel like it was stretching reality. Like it felt very
Yeah.
very grounded in
Mm-hmm.
reality. um so her mom tries to encourage her by cutting her hair,
Yeah.
gives her a
Mm-hmm.
mom cut, which she hates.
Hates.
Um, and then, but then Gabe is like, can you just give us a moment? And she's kind of going off about how
Mm-hmm.
she feels like ugly and like she doesn't draw and she
Mm-hmm.
doesn't see friends and all this stuff. And he's like, no, you're everything, is what he says. And then he tells her like she looks beautiful because he knows that that's all that she needs to
Mm-hmm.
hear. And I was like,
And like I said, baby number two. Baby number two, what happened?
it was just very very sweet. It was really sweet, and there's this really good foundation of like loyalty, respect, and like I think this is the a sign of any good relationship, not just romantic, but like I said about Kara, I'm willing to be there for you in your hardest
Mm-hmm.
moments. So I really liked that scene between them.
I
And then
love
we
that.
have Rosie's first birthday, and it's like just cute and like
So cute.
like a
And
cute
not even her first, it's her half birthday.
her half birthday. You're right, it's her half birthday.
Yeah. I was like, that's really cute. I'd
Yeah.
probably do something like that.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like sweet. They have a little cake, and it's important, I think, to celebrate the milestones. Like 6 months is a long time to spend with like a screaming newborn who is dependent on you to lift their head
Yeah.
and be
Yeah.
changed, or they'll die. Like that's it's like a lot of responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then we get to
Mm.
the point in the movie that I hate. Gabe moves into a new apartment,
Mm-hmm.
and he well, what's her name? Natalie comes over, and it's like a little housewarming thing. She like sits at his drum set, and then he's like he does the Bridgerton thing where he's like, oh, let me show you how to do it, and he like grabs her under like this part of her arms and is like,
Mm-hmm.
they're like playing the drums together,
Yeah.
and then he kisses her.
And it's the way he does it.
It's great. It's great. They have really good chemistry.
They
They
do.
really do. Um, they kiss, and then she's like, "Wait, let's discuss this. Let's define the relationship." Um, and he's like, and he gets those Bambi eyes, and he's like, "This could work. Like, we can make this
Mm-hmm.
work. We can make this work for Rosie." Like, because her
Mm-hmm.
concern is Rosie's involved, and I don't want to complicate her life if things don't work out between you and I. And he's like, "Well, if things
Mm-hmm.
work out between you and I, though."
It's like, what if it does? What if it's amazing?
Yeah, and also he's like, we'll figure it out. Like, we're adults.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna make it work. It might not work out exactly as we thought, but like, I don't know. Even if things didn't work out between them, it's not like they can't. They're gonna have to continue to cope.
They would have to co-parent either way. So it's like,
But
and it's
she,
all about how you react to how the relationship ended too.
yes. So she freaks out and she's like, "No, you should start dating other people."
Dumb, the worst advice. Why would you even say something like that?
And he's
You could
like,
have just left it. You could have just left it as, let's just be friends. Why are you encouraging this man to do other things?
self-sabotage. And then
Uh,
she leaves and she's talking to Kara, who has come to meet the baby, and she's like, "Yeah, I screwed up. I like told him to go like date
mm-hmm.
other people." And she acknowledges that but does nothing about it, which makes me upset because I'm like, so you realize
Nothing.
that this is like the complete opposite of what you want, but you won't
Mm-mm.
go change the situation.
Mm-mm.
And this is a decision she's going to regret for the next 5 years.
5 years,
Me
y'all. Not even like a few months. Nah,
many
5 years.
many years she will suffer a lot for the rest of the movie. Okay, so um oh, and another thing worth noting about the Kara scene is that she mentions like the night owl thing, which is like a foreshadowing of the South by South.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um so then Rosie grows up. They're at one of Rosie's birthday parties, and Gabe's girlfriend Miranda, right, shows
Miranda.
up,
Mm-hmm.
which up to this point I probably also would have been annoyed because
Yeah.
it's like you invited, it's like a party at her parents' house. I just feel like it's rude. And I said this to Ariel yesterday, like, Latin Americans know you don't just show up with somebody without asking. Like, you
Yeah.
can just bring somebody.
Yeah, I think it's just like a decency thing. Like, hey, like, just let me know if this is cool if I bring my partner. Especially it's kind of like, I mean, it's established that she knows that he has a girlfriend. It's not like she
Mm-hmm.
didn't know her, but like, he could have at least just been like, hey, is it cool if I bring so and so? And I understand people could argue, like, well, he didn't really have to ask her permission, but like, I get that. But like, it's also like it's not her house, it's her parents' house. And so it's like, so then it's really just a simple, is it cool if I bring my girlfriend? Let me just ask my parents. And then they're like, yeah, that's fine. And it would have been cool, would have been chill vibes.
But the problem is that she has feelings for him. So this isn't, it's not about,
Right. It's not even about that.
it's
Yeah.
not about that. It's about the fact that she doesn't like that he's with somebody else. So
Mm-hmm.
she reacts really poorly, and he's like, "I want her to know Rosie." And
Mm-hmm.
Natalie's like,
And that's when I wrote in my notes, tell your feelings in all caps.
because if she had said it, he would have been like, "Okay, like, I'll break
Yeah.
up with her right now." Like, is that how you feel? Like, I feel like that,
Yeah.
that's the kind of vibe I got from Gabe.
Yeah.
Um,
Because, yeah, we'll get to it. But
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So she's just kind of like, "Okay, I guess." So Gabe is like, I'm gonna pursue this, and Rosie's gonna get to know her because that's important
Mm-hmm.
to me. So then she drops off Rosie at Gabe's so that she can take a trip to LA. This is when she pisses me off, part two. Um,
Yes.
and it's interesting because in this universe, she goes out to dinner with Kara and she runs into Jake, who spills
Yeah.
something on her, something, and buys her,
Yeah, it's like a drink. Yeah.
yeah, buys her table like a round of drinks. But then nothing
Mm-hmm.
happens from then. What do you
Yeah.
think of that? Like him running into her in the baby verse?
I thought it was cute. Like I was just kind of like, oh, that's cool that they still kind of like she interacts with both men in
Yeah.
both universes and like little small moments. Like they even have like a quick little like banter thing and then like she goes to her table. But I thought that was cute. Like, and I also thought it was interesting that they didn't have her date anyone else in this universe. Like,
Mm.
even though like she wasn't Like, I mean, obviously she was busy being a mom and stuff, but like she didn't try to like date other people. Well, obviously because she was in love with Gabe, but maybe that was why. But
That we know of, because there wasn't a
right.
lot of time gap, so we don't know, like,
That's
fully.
true. She could have gone on a few dates for all we know.
Yeah, but no serious relationship
Hmm
seemed like, yeah.
but I thought that was cute. Like how you're talking about how like things like separated, but then would like kind of cross over and overlap in some moments. That was cute.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And I've said this to you before, and I'm pretty sure I've said this on the podcast. I like that too because I personally don't believe in soulmates. So it's like
Hmm
this cute idea of like there might be many different people out there that could be
hmm
applicable to you at different points in your life if
Yeah.
you're both ready. Because there might be someone that could have been your like partner or whatever, but then they're like a hot mess when you're ready, or vice versa. There could have been someone great
Yeah.
for you and you were a hot mess and it just wasn't the
hmm
time.
Yeah.
Um, so I thought that was it was nice. Like I liked those moments of overlap in both uh universes. And then she well actually there's another thing that I thought was interesting in this scene. Kara was kind of like, it's okay that you didn't come because maybe you weren't meant to be here. And I thought
hmm
that was interesting too. Like in one timeline her life took her to LA, in another timeline her life took her to a different place. So it's like
Yeah.
different seasons, different lifestyles, different life events, like just call for different things and she could find
Yeah.
happiness either place, I think. So um then she is on the couch. She gets a call from Rosie. Um, and there are a lot of
Yep.
problems happening at this point because Rosie's like, "Oh, I'm with some girl, like Jess, I think Miranda's sister or something like that."
Yeah, she said in Jesse, yeah, she's like, "Oh, where's your dad?" She's like, "Can I talk to your dad?" And she's like, "Oh, daddy's not home." And she's like, "Okay, like, where is he?" And she's like, I'm here with Jesse." And she's like, "Who's Jesse?" And she's like, "She's a girl, mommy." It's
Mhm.
like, great, but who is she?
Right.
And so then she's like, "Okay, I'm just coming home. Like, I'm gonna come home and see
Right.
you. I'm gonna come get you." And I'm like, "Madam, we're in California.
Right.
Your daughter's in Texas.
Mhm.
This is not like I was telling you last night, I was like, it's not like your daughter got kidnapped. It's not like she's calling you, being like, please come save me. Somebody took me."
Mhm.
Like, and it's not like you don't have parents that you could call and be like, "Hey, can you stop by Gabe's house and make sure she's okay?" Like,
Yeah.
like it was like her reaction was very like, it went to kind of like the extreme end,
Mhm.
to in my opinion, where I was just kind of like I get you're upset and like you just want to go like get your kid, but at the same time, you don't have to take a whole you just got to LA. Like, and I was telling you too, like I was like, that's like if you came to visit me and then something happened, or not even something happened, but like your sister told you something that will, upset you, and you had just literally gotten off the plane and you
Mhm.
were like, "Well, sorry, I have to go back to the airport. I have to go see my sister." I'd be like, "Why? Like, is she
Mhm.
okay?" Like, "Oh, I don't know. She just told me this thing that's upsetting." Okay.
Right. No,
Yeah,
it's true because it's like I said this to you yesterday too. She has a right to be upset. Like her,
for
she
sure.
had arranged for her daughter to spend the night with Gabe, and he
Hmm
never told her like this person that you don't know is gonna watch our kid. That's a completely understandable thing to be upset.
Right.
But in that situation, like your mom lives
hmm
nearby, I would have been like, "Hello, Vivian. Some woman is with child. I need you to go
Yeah.
and I need you to get her. And I need you to
Yeah.
call Gabe and figure out where the heck that man is and see what happened, you know?" But there's
Yeah.
especially because if she was in an emergency by the time I said this to you yesterday too, like by the time you get there, she's gonna be dead. Like if it's
Right. Right.
so that annoyed me and it just felt like a really bad friend moment too, because she
Yeah.
just didn't consider like Kara's
Mm-mm.
feelings.
Right. Because she kind of told her, like, she was like, "Rosie comes first," kind of thing. And I'm like, I hear you. I hear you, sister girl. But this isn't, I get, like, I'm like, this is not really a situation where I would be like, I have to ditch you
Mhm.
for just to make sure, like, because she's
Because
not like,
it's not about Rosie. That's why. That's the
right.
whole
Yeah,
thing, that's
again.
not about Rosie. Like this is about Gabe. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
upset at Gabe, and so I have to go back there to make sure that he's doing what I want him to be doing. When it's like
Mm.
you fumbled the bag years ago, so why are you
Yep.
mad?
Yep. You're right.
So anyway, so she ends
Anyway.
up screaming at Gabe, and he is obviously not pleased about that because she just shows up at his
Mm-hmm.
house and starts yelling at him. And then he's like, I am engaged. I had a plan for a long time. You kind of dumped her on me at the last minute.
Mm-hmm.
I proposed to Miranda, and she's like, okay,
Right.
that's okay, nice.
She's like, oh, congrats.
Right.
I don't
She's
even think she says
crying.
congratulations. She's literally just like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So then she's like, come on, Rosie, let's leave. And then there's the scene of her like driving, crying in the rain. And this is when
Mm-hmm.
the parallel scene occurs with
Mm-hmm.
her and her broke, oh my gosh, girl boss verse. So,
Yeah.
where she shows up after the breakup with Jake and shows up, she's crying. Her parents are supportive, which I like.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, I like that constant
Yeah.
in her life. She's drawing the Night Owl comic while Rosie sleeps, and then Kara shows up and Natalie apologizes to her.
Mm-hmm.
And in this universe, she's like, "Oh, I didn't go to the baby shower." So I'm like, "Great, because you would have ruined
Yeah.
somebody's life after the
Yeah. With your misery.
yeah." And then we get this parallel of her, drawing for in both for South by Southwest, and
Mm-hmm.
it kind of like blurs a little bit, which once again I like because that's something that's a core value to her. But
The thing that happened in this universe with her comic was that it went viral on a blog first,
yeah,
and then they invited her to the
yes, you're right. You're right. So
South
she was
by
just
Southwest.
drawing, and then she was
Mm-hmm.
invited. No, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so she has a moment the next morning. She's trying her best to be nice to Gabe and Miranda. She gets them a little gift. I thought it was
Marriage
cute
gift.
that when they dropped off the kid at the school, Gabe
Mm-hmm.
says something to her like in Spanish, and I was like, she better be bilingual. Period.
Her.
Love. I love a brown king. Anyway. And then she's, trying to do the right thing, be nice to them. She's like, I can't make you be miserable because that's clearly not
Mm-hmm.
helping. Hating you is not helping me because it's not how I actually feel about you. I don't hate you. I love you. And I'm really upset about the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And then as she's walking away, she finds out Night Owl gained popularity. It like went viral and she got invited to be on a panel. Were you gonna say something about
I was just gonna say about how we were talking about how she needed a therapist because she clearly needed to express her feelings and
oh
didn't know
yeah.
how.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I'm like, so what you mean is this? This is what you're saying. That's not the truth of what's going
Mm-mm.
on. So yeah, so she gains popularity. She's asked to be on a South by Southwest panel. Oh, and one thing I guess if we did mention this, but Gabe's band played at South by Southwest in the previous universe, and in this one, when she tells him like I got invited to speak, he's like, oh, my band might be playing there.
Yeah.
So me and Rosie will definitely be there. And then they gaze into each other's eyes
Yes. Yes.
longingly.
I literally
Embrace
wrote
her.
the way that they look at each other. It's
So,
I can't.
and it just feels like fate,
Mm-hmm.
like it just feels like fate, like an intervention of God. Um,
Mm-hmm. God ordained.
yeah. So then they have like once again the check-in parallel. And the person who interviews her ends up being Lucy, which is really cool. So that's like
Mm-hmm.
another kind of constant person in her life. And Gabe and Rosie are in the audience with like a "We love you, mom."
Yeah.
He's just like his reactions to her are so cute. You can tell he's like so proud and that he
Mm-hmm.
loves her despite the fact that he's engaged to somebody else. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and her parents are there and they're all like supportive. And then I wrote, and he is longingly gazing at her in all caps.
Yep. Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
yeah. So
That was so cute.
okay, so after this we get another "We Are Young," which like comes up a lot in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Since
Comes up twice in the beginning.
yeah, then his
Yep.
band sings it, and then it plays
Mm-hmm.
at the end
Mm-hmm.
as well. So it comes up three different times. Um, So his band is playing and they're watching his band play. Her parents, Rosie, she has her cute little like baby earmuffs, whatever. Um, and then they're after, she's like, "Oh, that was great. Like I'm so proud of you, whatever." They're talking to each other. They are once again very close, very, very longingly gazed. The energy, the chemistry, it's all there. And she brings up Miranda and he's like,
Mm-hmm.
just it didn't work out. I called it off. And she's like, why?
Right.
What's going on? And he's like, she just wasn't you. And I
I love this song.
literally, I was about to say exactly that. It reminded me once again of Jane and Raphael because there's a moment where he's
Mm-hmm.
dating Sophia Bush's character. I don't even remember her name because she wasn't important. No,
Irrelevant. It wasn't.
Sophia Bush at all, but
Mm-mm.
offense to her character. Like, yeah, I broke up with her because she wasn't you. Like,
Mm.
yeah, I just can't do that to her. And that just
Uh,
major man written by woman energy. Um, but that was really, really sweet and cute. What were your thoughts on on that moment, like between the two of them?
I mean, as you just saw, I danced. I literally was like, thank you, God. Like, lifted my arms in praise
Hmm.
because it was just, I was just like, finally, like, finally.
Well, on the
Because even
subject,
finally.
so there on the bridge later, the bridge where she told him, I love places are very significant to me personally.
Mhm,
Like I get very attached to places. So I thought it was really cool that they went back to the bridge where she told him that she was pregnant. Um,
mhm.
they're on this bridge and they're reminiscing
Oh
about
my God.
that day.
Sorry. Just
And
full circle.
yeah, they're reminiscing about that day and she's like, yeah, like everything changed that day and you've been so supportive. And she's basically like, I'm in love with you. Like I've been in love with you
Mhm.
this whole time. And he says, finally,
Finally.
in response. And I literally
And
was like,
he does it in such like a patient, I've been waiting. Just wait on the Lord, okay?
it was just so good and
He will renew your
cute.
strength.
I
It
just
was beautiful. I just,
and that's the end of their story. And it was great.
it
So
was beautiful. It was perfect. I
mhm.
loved everything about it.
And I
And
think
like I said, baby number two would have happened that day.
I'm screaming. Well, at this point, baby number three, because you've already declared
Right.
baby number two. I think it's interesting because, like, what I said about, well, different than what I said about Jake. Jake is her mirror self. Gabe is
Mm-hmm.
the person that's like, you are nothing like me. We have like almost
Mm-hmm.
nothing in common except our love for
Different
my kid.
interests. Yeah.
We have different interests. Like our lives just take on, we approach life differently. He's a lot more
Mm-hmm.
carefree and extroverted. And they're
Yeah.
both creative, but she's creative in like a planned way. And he's like, I'm just
Mm-hmm.
being it and figure
He's just
it out.
willing to take risks.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but and I think that's really beautiful too, because it's like this is the whirlwind like romance of life
Mm-hmm.
of like I just didn't expect for our life to turn out this way, but like suddenly I'm picturing my life without you in it and it sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want that. Um, so that moment between them was everything. And I feel like they should have put the Jake scene before the scene because I liked the scene more. So then it just made Jake showing up. I was kind of like,
Right. Like whatever, man.
nice, I
we're
guess.
still we're still reeling.
Yeah. So it was like 10 out of 10.
Mhm.
And then we get this like nice little parallel scene with
At the
them,
end,
with
yeah.
both of her selves like coming back into the
Mm-hmm.
house, back into the bathroom, which we started the movie in. Well, we almost started the movie in.
Yeah.
And she has this cute little moment where she like stands in the mirror, looks at herself, looks back at where she was when she took the pregnancy test, looks
Mm-hmm.
back at herself and is like, you're okay. And then she walks out of the house and walks to like her respective man,
Mm-hmm.
whatever universe she's in, and they walk away. And then we hear We're
Mm-hmm.
Young play in the
Mm-hmm.
background. And what'd you think of like that ending?
I thought it was really good. I thought it was a nice way. And I like how like at the end they didn't really show us what happened.
Hmm.
Like they just showed her kind of
Yeah.
like looking at the test and then kind of like looking up as like whatever happened, she just was like, okay, let's do this thing.
Hmm.
So I really like that because I think I would have been like, I mean, obviously either way her life would have been okay and she would have been satisfied,
Hmm.
but I'm glad that they kind of didn't show us like what the result actually said.
Yeah. I feel like it would have ruined the movie if they had
Yeah.
one way or the other, because I don't think that's the point. I think the point is
Yeah.
that there is no one right way for your life to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to make mistakes or get derailed, or things are going to happen that are just unplanned. And either way, like she's still, the big things in her life were still present in both universes. She still had her friendship. She still found love. She had her parents, you know. And
Yeah.
it's not like she couldn't go on and have a family like in the
Mm-hmm.
Boss verse. So it just would
Yeah.
have been at a different time because everybody's timeline is different.
Yep.
Um, so I really, really liked that. I don't know, it was just encouraging. I was saying this to you yesterday because I think a lot of things I thought about my life or things I thought were constants have recently revealed themselves to not be that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this was just really encouraging of like, no matter what happens, even if it's completely different than the plan that you might have had, like, especially when I think about like God, it's like, I've got it and you're going
Mm-hmm.
to be okay because I can see the person that you're going to run into in Trader Joe's, you know, that like is going to change your life.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I thought it was a really wholesome movie.
I thought it was really cute. It's definitely a nice little like feel good, like turn
Yeah.
on when you want to just watch a nice little comfort movie.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot. I really liked it. 5 out of 5 stars.
Yeah. So thank you for the recommendation because Ariel was the one who told me I should watch
You're
it.
welcome.
And then we were like, oh my God, we should talk about this should be our first movie.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, I and please feel free to like give us any suggestions. We have a couple of different things that we're probably going to talk about anyway, like shows once they're done or movies once they
Mm-hmm.
come out. But if you guys have any suggestions of things that are new, of things that are not new, like we did a whole thing
Yeah.
on The Hobbit and that came out like over 10 years ago. So
Right.
let us know. But do you have any like parting thoughts before we wrap this, however long this thing has turned out to be, episode up?
Right. I mean, I guess it would just be like, I don't know, like things. I'm very much someone who just believes things happen for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
whether good or bad. And, a lot of the times I have a hard time processing the bad whenever they happen. But like then in hindsight, or like after I've kind of overcome that bad part of my life, like, I'm just kind of like, well, that was a moment of growth for me.
Mm-hmm.
That was a time for me to really like know who I am. Like
Yeah,
I learned this new thing about me, and I learned that I'm like resilient, or like I can like persevere like through hard times kind of thing. Like I think everything teaches us something.
I agree.
And I think like, whatever course of action our lives take based on our choices, I think like at the end of the day, like if that's the choice that we make, then that's the choice that was supposed to happen. That's the
Mm-hmm.
the result of what was supposed to happen. Um, yeah, I think like despite whatever happened, it's like, maybe God saw it fit for this to be the timeline.
Yeah.
Maybe the other timeline wasn't gonna work out, or like, I don't know, maybe the timeline that you're in right now is easier than the timeline that you wanted,
Mm-hmm.
or like what you thought would have happened.
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes I like to think like maybe, I mean, there's infinite amount of like timelines that could happen, but like I'm like maybe, when I get to heaven, I can ask God like, hey, if I didn't do this thing, or if I had
Right.
done this thing, what would my life have looked like? And
Mm-hmm.
like he could be like, all right, run the tape, let's show her. Um, I don't know, like things like that. So, but I think too, this movie also kind of makes you think about like maybe like taking risks. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think about a lot where I'm like, when I'm like a mom and my kids ask me like, what was your life like before you had kids? Or like, what did you do as like a young person? Like, I want to be able to tell them like, yo, I took risks. Like I did this thing. I traveled here. Um, and it was all worth it. It wasn't easy, but it
Right.
was like in the end it all worked out, and it'll always work out. um and it was worth the risk. It was worth taking the leap or the
Mm-hmm.
jump or whatever it is. So yeah, those are
Yeah.
my parting thoughts.
I was listening to The Hobbit on audiobook And at the end, Bilbo talks about the Battle of the Five Armies, even though he barely fights in it because he has the ring on half the time and
Mm-hmm.
just knocks himself unconscious. Um, he says like that was the moment in my life I was most afraid, but also the moment which I'm most proud of. And I was like, that's really powerful, actually. It's like
Mm-hmm.
if you think back on some of the things you've done in your life that you're like, I'm really proud of that. A lot of the time, if you think about the before you did whatever it is, or even the during, it's like that was really hard. That was a really hard moment. I really didn't want to do that. I really didn't want to experience that. So it's like those are the moments sometimes that like elevate us or, really show us like what we're made of. So
Yeah.
yeah, this movie made me feel very like optimistic, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a
Yeah.
good movie to watch before I started my program for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, but this has been AM in the PM. Thank you guys for joining us. If you're still listening at this point, like God bless you, honestly. Be well.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
so yeah, so we'll see you next time with I really don't know what we're gonna be talking about, but
Yeah, me
definitely something
neither.
exciting because we are very passionate people about the movies and shows that we watch. So we'll see you next
Mm-hmm.
time. This is Melina,
This is Ariel.
and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.